So today I think we should talk about what collars you can use for your dog and the benefits and the pitfalls of certain collars. The main thing I want you to think about is your dog's safety when you choose a collar. And the collar that I mainly use on my dog is what's called a choke chain or a choke type collar. The reason I use this is because it's very hard for the dog to slip out of it and on accident run away from you or escape from you. There are many different options for these type of collars, but I want you to think about the best one for your dog is going to be one that's welded shut. So that means each link would be welded together as well as the rings on the end. A lot of the cheaper Chinese made ones don't have that. So if you give a strong correction on your dog or your dog gives a very strong pull, there is a likelihood that those links will come apart or that the ring will split and that you'll lose your dog. As I was talking about the choke chain, this is a Hermspringer or German made choke chain. It's basically a series of links of chain with two rings on the end. Every one of these links is welded shut as well as the ring at the end. Everything is welded shut, so it's a very, very strong collar that won't come undone if your dog pulls on it. The way to use these is really simple. You hold one ring and drop the entire length of chain through the other ring. It's put on your dog to shape a P. So that is, if you keep your dog on your left-hand side, you'd slip the P over his neck this way. The reason for that is so that when we correct the dog here, the collar releases itself again. So it corrects, cinches the dog can't get out, can't hurt himself, can't get away, and I release, and the chain releases upon itself. If it's done the other way, here, the correction comes up, and now when you go to release, the chain can't release itself, so it stays stuck on the dog and keeps pressure on his neck. So easy to remember. This makes a P when it faces your dog and goes on this way. Goofy, come here, let me show. Goofy, come here. Good, so when I look at my dog, this is making a P, and I put the P straight onto my dog's neck. The length of the collar is going to be an important choice for you. And the way to determine that is make sure it fits over his head comfortably. A lot of the stuff is very different with bigger headed dogs like Mastiffs, Corsos, Bulldogs, Pit Bulls and stuff like that. A dog like a Shepherd where their head and their neck are almost the same size is a little bit easier to determine. But when it's over the dog's neck, you should still be able to get your hand underneath the collar here like this. And when you pull on this chain, you should be able to pull about 3 to 4 links out. That's also going to depend upon the size of the link. So if you're using a very big fur saver, you'll pull less links out than if you use a really small, just a chain link. This fur saver collar has smaller links, so you'll end up pulling more out than a large link fur saver. And also a regular chain link, you'll pull a lot more links out. But think about it as being just maybe like 3, maybe 4 inches maximum that you should pull out. You should not have this chain coming out to here. That would be too big. So the Martingale collar, which is the one that I would recommend most, although I use the choke chain, I recommend the Martingale most because it's a very easy collar to use and it's very safe for your dog. The Martingale has the distinct advantage that no matter how hard you pull on it, it does not choke your dog. It'll only cinch or contract to a certain distance. So if that's the size of your dog's neck, it will not get any smaller. The Martingale allows you to adjust the collar to a comfortable width. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then use that size on your dog so that you still get the contraction so your dog won't pull out of the collar, but your dog will not be able to choke himself if you leave him alone or anything like that. I don't recommend leaving collars on your dogs when you leave them alone, with the exception of maybe a name tag collar or something like that, because there are some inherent risks, especially with smaller dogs, that your dog could end up choking themselves. So the Martingale collar, this is the type that does not have a buckle, a snap buckle to open and close where you can just put it around your dog's neck and snap it. This one has an adjustable strap, so you can make it as tight or as loose as you like. The advantage with this one is, remember, the buckle is going to be the weakest link in the chain, and if that buckle breaks or comes undone, you lose your dog. And that's an important aspect to remember when you're using a collar. The collar is there to protect your dog, not necessarily to control or to train him. It's there to protect him from getting away from you. So when I take the Martingale collar, I'm going to see if this is approximately the right size. I put it over my dog's neck, and that happens to be the right size because as I contract here, you can see that now the dog can't pull out. It's big enough where the neck portion of his head, where it meets his skull, is contracted. So it doesn't allow him to pull out of it, but yet it allows him a lot of loose play. It's a comfortable collar. I can get both my fingers in here. And that's an important aspect, that this collar should be loose enough I can get my fingers in behind the collar and pull, but it can't just flop over his neck. So here you can see it would be a bit of work to get over his neck. I'd have to undo this strap a little bit and then pull it out over his neck. The flat collar is probably the most commonly used collar. You'll see them, they come decorated, they have straps and buckles and decorations on them. Some people put their names on their dog's names on flat collars, reward information. All in all, it's a great collar for the dog, but it does not give you any chance to protect your dog in the event that they try to get away from you. Flat collars also put an immense amount of pressure in your dog's neck if you're trying to correct them. That means this flat part of the collar is constantly pushing against the dog's neck without giving him any chance for correction or guidance as to what they should be doing. This is a really good quality flat collar. It is a buckle type collar so that we can slip it over our dog's neck and just buckle it as opposed to just guiding it over our dog's neck. So when I put this over my dog's neck here, you'll see I can put it there and I put the buckle on, and now I'm controlling my dog. The problem with the flat collar is if it's loose enough to kind of ride comfortably on my dog's neck, it's also loose enough to just pull off of my dog. So if my dog is on a leash here and he starts to pull backwards, he'll pull completely out of this collar. So now if I have the collar this small, it's consistently constricting on the dog's neck, and it also will start to wear the fur down and flatten the fur on your dog's neck, which a lot of people don't like because it doesn't look good. So the flat collar might be a good choice for some things if you want to just have the name on there and keep it loose and not worry about it, but it's not a good tool for training your dog or controlling your dog in the event of safety. The pinch collar is probably one of the most misunderstood tools in dog training, and we're going to do a whole video on pinch collars and how to use them properly, but I want to talk to you about the advantages of a pinch collar and how to fit it properly to your dog. The pinch collar is also called a prong collar, a spike collar, and a bunch of other things, and the reason for that is because the edges of the wire collar here pinch into your dog's neck when we're delivering a correction. When we're not delivering a correction, it rests very comfortably on your dog's neck. So the pinch collar is used properly by opening it and closing it, by undoing one prong, which would be your choice, which one you want to do. And it's also advantageous to use different prongs to open and close at different times. If not, you end up bending and tweaking one prong completely out of shape and maligned. So when I use the collar, it goes up very, very high on the dog's neck. It sits right under the ears and like this, and it sits very snug on the dog's neck. So when it's on the dog's neck, you'll see that it sits very high, it doesn't move on its own, it sits very still, and it gives me the option to use it, one, as a martingale, which would contract the links as I go, or secondly, to use what we call the dead ring, and the dead ring is actually using both rings, which just simply gives it like a flat collar type correction. All the work you'll see me do will be with a martingale type correction. That means it'll be on the live ring, so that it gives the dog a correction and a release and a correction and a release, and the dog feels the cinching of the collar as a correction as opposed to just the prongs coming in on the dog as a correction. So as you see from the back of the dog's neck here, I have a choke chain on the dog and the pinch collar, and I use them together. So I use the collars this way because the pinch collars, especially if you're using a smaller one, has a likelihood that it might break apart. And if it does break apart, you still have the backup of your fur saver or your choke chain to control the dog if you're doing any kind of dog training where you're worried about the dog running away or breaking or getting into the street or anything like that. I want to talk again about the size of the pinch collar that I use, and that is the smallest one available. This is the 2¼ millimeter pinch. And I don't use the bigger ones because one, they don't work as well. Two, they're very, very big and very heavy on the dog's neck. This is very unobtrusive. The dog hardly knows it's on, weighs maybe an ounce or two. And when they correct, when this pinch comes in, it gives them a stronger correction for less work and less pain on the dog. So when this is on him, you'll see he's actually really distracted now. With a little bit of a tug on the pinch, he'll start to comply and sit. These British slip leads are probably one of the best tools for use on dogs because they control the dog completely, they're safe, they're easy, they're inexpensive, and they work. So it's a basic slip lead that has a ring at the end, and it makes a noose. So when we put it on the dog, we put it over the dog's head and use this little leather stopper so that if we let the dog run freely, he can't back out of this leash at all. He'll stay on this leash the whole time. They come in 4, 6, 8, a bunch of different lengths, and they completely control the dog. They're safe, they're double stitched. This is by a company called Mendota. They make very good products, all made in America. And it controls the dog very easily. It's light. You could let your dog run off leash if you wanted to, still control them, let them come back, and have complete control and safety over your dog. When you use these leads, the important thing is once you put them on your dog, and you'll see this in my shelter videos, once I put it on, I immediately put the stopper down, because if you don't, the dog's natural running will allow the dog to just back out of that leash, and that's the most dangerous part, once the dog comes out of the leash. Goofy. So put it over your dog's head. As soon as you put it over the dog's head, put it here. It's a real easy way to walk your dog, control your dog. It doesn't give you the option to put a tag on, but I guess you could clip the tag onto this ring here. But it's a real easy way to just slip your dog into a leash and take off and start on your walk or your run or your hike or whatever you're going for. So that's the basic slip lead. I love these. I think they're really useful, and I highly recommend using them if you're not going to use anything else.